When I was a senior in high school, I spent my fall semester on a kibbutz in the Judean hills outside of Jerusalem, Kibbutz Suba. Few experiences in my life were quite as transformative as those 4 months. I learned Hebrew, studied in-depth Jewish history, fell in love with Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, and just as Israeli high schoolers do, traveled to Poland. We visited Warsaw, once the home of 375,000 Jews, and Krakow, once the home of 60,000 Jews. By 2023, only 4,500 Jews called either of those cities home. We walked through the shtetl-like town of Tikochin, where the town's 1,400 Jews were marched to the nearby forest and massacred. We toured the infamous concentration camp Auschwitz on a damp fall day, as well as the nearby ruins of Auschwitz II-Birkenau, the death camp where 1 million Jews were exterminated. Most chillingly for me, however, was our visit to the less-known death camp, Majdanek. When our bus pulled into Majdanek, we found ourselves completely alone. No other buses, no one to greet us, no museum entry, no other visitors on the chilly November day. Just 30 teens and a few counselors exploring an abandoned death camp. We walked in past a white house, home of the Nazi commandant in charge of the camp, and through a gate with 2 layers of once electrified barbed wire, registering the privilege that all these years later, we would freely walk back out. We walked into a building whose sign read, Bath and Disinfection 1 in German. We stepped in to the showers, and a few steps later, behind a still functional wooden door, the Prussian blue stains on the concrete walls revealed the building's true purpose: mass murder by Zyklon B. I touched the cold, smooth concrete walls that witnessed the murder of tens of thousands of Jews exactly where I stood. It was hard to comprehend. A weight sat on my chest that I can still feel to this day. If you've ever visited one of these horrific places, I imagine you know that feeling. I wrapped myself in the flag of the Jewish nation, designed like a talit, and wondered how I could be so lucky to be Jewish and able to walk back out of the gates of hell on earth. 16 years later, unfortunately, the weight on my chest returned as I walked through the rubble of Kfar Aza. As I joined a group of rabbis on a trip to Israel just 2 months after Hamas turned the Gaza envelope into hell on earth. Burnt out apartments, bullet holes through these young people's front doors, hastily drawn Hebrew in one entryway that read, human remains on the couch. I walked past a rectangular banner that stood outside a small apartment with broken windows. Neda Epstein was brutally murdered in this house. Neda lived there with his fiancée, Irene. The 22-year-olds were due to marry on April 24th. When Hamas terrorists threw grenades into their home, Neda, the trained soldier he was, jumped on top of one to save Irene's life. The terrorists fired at his lifeless body, lit the apartment on fire, and moved on to the next one. Irene, miraculously, made it out alive. He died, so I could live, she said later. So I must live. There are moments that change our lives personally and moments that change our lives communally. October 7th was both. We are not the same people we were last Rosh Hashanah, and we are not the same community. In 5784, there were moments where we felt scared, moments where we felt personally attacked, moments where we felt vulnerable, moments where we felt confused and angry, moments where we felt pain like we've never felt, moments where we felt completely helpless, moments where we felt overwhelmed and burnt out, moments where we felt alone, and moments where we felt alienated, and moments where we felt so many things simultaneously that we didn't know what to feel. And in all these moments, these life-defining, community-altering moments, we face a tension. The tension between surviving and thriving. The tension between letting our trauma define the rest of our lives and launching the rest of our lives from a defining moment. In 1965, Admiral James Stockdale, a fighter pilot in the Navy, was shot down over Vietnam and spent the next 7 years in the infamous Hanoi Hilton, the Vietnamese prison camp where he and Senator John McCain, along with countless others, endured brutal physical and mental torture. What's remarkable about Admiral Stockdale isn't just his survival, but the mindset he developed in captivity, which later became known as the Stockdale paradox. He was able to endure the unimaginable by maintaining a balance between two contrasting ideas. One, a firm belief that one day he would prevail, one day he would return home, coupled with the acceptance of the brutal realities in front of him. This paradox of holding on to hope for the future while confronting the darkest truths of our present resonates in the wake of October 7th and feels particularly Jewish. Stockdale understood that false expectations of a naive optimist were as dangerous as the hopelessness of a pessimist. We too must navigate this challenge as a community. We don't have the luxury of blissful ignorance, nor do we have the luxury of despair. After the events of October 7th and the immensely challenging year that followed, we have to face the brutal realities in front of us. And we cannot let those realities stop us from living fully, from living proudly, from thriving. Just as Stockdale refused to let his captivity define him, we must find a way to acknowledge the weight of our pain while refusing to let it dictate the rest of our lives. This is our paradox, to live with the scars, yet continue to build something new, something stronger, something enduring. In the weeks after October 7th, a man broke into the home of a Jewish family in Studio City, yelling anti-Semitic things. And apparently the assailant had targeted that home because of the mezuzah on its outside. From Los Angeles to Canada to England to Germany, Jews across the world believed their mezuzot led vandals to target their homes and buildings with anti-Jewish and anti-Israel hate. Within a month of October 7th, one of the most traumatic moments in our history, Jews around the world were forced to confront a painful question. Should we take our mezuzahs down? Should we take off our Jewish necklaces? Should we hide our Judaism? I keep missing slides and I apologize. But this is Sala Furliger, the mother of famed psychologist Esther Perel. She was a teenager when World War II broke out. And for an entire year, she hid in the woods, scavenging for eggs and potatoes, terrified of barking dogs and the sense that every morning she would wake up in a different place, not knowing what that day would bring. One day, Sala had had enough, and she surrendered herself, the first story I've heard like this, to a labor camp, where she thought, it was a male labor camp, that they might need a woman to do the laundry or work in the kitchen, and she could be useful, while also knowing where she was waking up every morning and where her food was coming from. She acknowledged her brutal reality in the woods and made a fateful and hopeful choice. Her story reminds us that in moments of fear, there's a pull towards survival that can force us into hiding, physically, emotionally, or both. It's a very natural human reaction to threats and violence. whether during the Holocaust or in the aftermath of October 7th and the year that we've endured. But Salah's courage was in her choice to refuse to succumb to that fear, to face her reality head on and choose a difficult path in order to pave her own path forward and have some sense of control over her fate. Though our privileged situation in America today is far removed from Salah's experiences during the Holocaust or the existential threats faced by our Israeli family, her story offers us a lesson as we confront the threats to our identity and the threats to our people. The mezuzah, so often a symbol of protection and Jewish pride, confronted us with a terrible choice this year: to hide or to stand proudly visible in the face of adversity and fear. And the answer to that predicament of 2024 is not so simple, nor is it the one-size-fits-all solution. Removing outward symbols of Judaism can feel like a necessary step for some, but I urge you against it. As my wise colleague, Rabbi Rachel Timoner, told her community a week after October 7th, please do not take down your mezuzah off your door. Please do not stop assembling in your synagogues to be together. Please do not take your star from around your neck. Please do not stop living as proud Jews. Please do not stop standing as steadfast supporters of our Israeli family who feel more alone in the world than ever. Please do not stop calling for the return of hostages. Please do not stop giving aid funds. Please do not stop calling Israeli friends and family here and there. Please do not stop doing all the Jewish things you do. Every one of them, every Jewish thing you do matters. A young man in our community, Eli Tobel, intuited Rabbi Timoner's message. He had read about the trend of Jews taking down their mezuzahs and feeling too afraid to wear their Star of David necklaces. In response, he started making mezuzahs in his garage so that, in his words, he might play a small part in reversing that trend, making other people feel safe, confident, and proud too, despite all the anti-Semitism around us. Oh, looks like I lost a picture. Eli's donating all the profits of this project directly to the Israel Trauma Coalition, which helps treat trauma and build emergency preparedness in Israel and around the world. And of course, Eli is here. My friend, will you stand up? Eli, don't sit down yet. I need you to give me a strong "I love being Jewish." I love being Jewish. You join. I love being Jewish. See how many of you remember the sermon from last year. He's selling these mezuzot at mightymezuzahs.com. They're only $36, but you can donate as much as you want, and they will also be in the lobby after services. Another young man, our community's most recent bar mitzvah, Alec Benson, came home from Camp Newman this summer and told his amazing parents, "I want a Jewish star." After enduring the normal challenges of being in middle school, coupled with the new post-October 7th challenges of being Jewish in middle school, Alec came home from camp ready to represent. And his parents did him one better and passed down a beautiful mezuzah necklace that had a Star of David on it that was his grandfather's. He wore it proudly last Saturday and pulled it out as he became bar mitzvah. Whichever path we take, whichever path feels right for us and our families, let it be a conscious one aimed at celebrating our heritage. We are part of a history of resilience, one that has survived unimaginable horror, not by fading away, but by finding new ways to stand firm. This year, our community will begin a process of restoring our precious Torah scroll that survived the Shoah, the Holocaust. Let's see. Okay. In the wreckage of Nazi hate, 1,500 scrolls, here are a few of them, were gathered in Prague from the devastated communities of the Czech Republic. Our community was gifted one of these precious scrolls by the grandmother of Toby Comas Daniels, Ray Comas, Grandma Ray. It comes from the small town of Dobashish, just southwest of Prague. Back in the day, that's what the home of our Torah looked like. These sacred Torahs, organized by the Memorial Scroll Trust in London, inspire communities around the world as enduring symbols of Jewish life and resilience in the face of unimaginable tragedy. By restoring our Torah, we continue the through line it represents, connecting past generations with us today and the generations yet to come. During the course of 5785, we will host Sofer Moshe Druin, a master scribe, to teach us all about the sacred process of writing and restoring a Torah. We'll commission new Torah covers and new silver adornments. Every single member of our community will have the opportunity to sit with our precious scroll and have a private session with Rabbi Druin to repair a letter in that scroll. He's assessing our Torahs here, which happened a few months ago. In a normal year, a Torah restoration would be an incredible honor. Restoring a 200-year-old Torah that not only survived the Holocaust, but danced at hundreds of Simchat Torah celebrations, welcomed hundreds of 13-year-olds into Jewish adulthood, and was the centerpiece of a thriving Jewish community, and has been at the center of our celebrations. And I just found out that it was the Torah at Temple Shir Shalom that was primarily used when you first got it, right, Neil? But this isn't a normal year. This is 5785. And in 5785, we will celebrate our 83rd birthday. In Psalms, we learn that 70 years is a full life. To live another 13 beyond that, the age of a second bar mitzvah, is a great simcha, a great celebration. And we will celebrate our second B mitzvah this year. But second, 5785 is the year after the terrorist attacks of October 7th, which fell on Simchat Torah. The moment in our year where we specifically rejoice in Torah, where we dance with our Torahs, we consecrate our newest learners of Torah, we acknowledge our Torah as the center of Jewish life and Jewish continuity. It was on this day that the Jews of Israel experienced the worst pogrom since the Holocaust. Repairing our scroll, saved from the wreckage of hate, is an act of resilience, an affirmation of life, a defiance of the fear and despair that the terrorists sought to instill in us. It transforms our collective grief into collective action and breathes new life into a Torah that bridges us to the past and paves our way to the future. Obviously, we need sponsors for this project, and if you are as inspired as I am by restoring this sacred scroll, please let me know. I can't wait to embark on this meaningful journey with all of you this year. 61 years ago, the Jewish community was faced with a similar despair that we faced this past year. On Yom Kippur, 1973, the young state of Israel was attacked by the surrounding Arab armies on the holiest day of the year. The entire country was caught off guard. And as Israel fought for its survival, Rabbi Baruch Chait wrote a tune to a Hasidic teaching that spread across the Israeli army and subsequently the Jewish world. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od ve'ha'ikar lo lefached klal. The whole world is a very narrow bridge, and the most important thing is not to be afraid. It is a song of resilience that reminds Jews in times of great despair that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear stop us from continuing across the bridge. The Hasidic teaching comes from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, whose original words differed just a touch from the famous tune. In the original, Rabbi Nachman teaches, V'ha'ikar shelo yitpached klal, meaning the most important thing isn't just to not be afraid, it's to not frighten yourself. As we stand on the very narrow bridge on the threshold of 5785, we are faced with a choice. Do we merely survive letting fear dictate our lives, or do we choose to live fully, proudly, courageously, as Jews, adding more mezuzot to our doorposts, mightymezuzahs.com, proudly wearing the Stars of David's and Hamsas around our necks, restoring a Torah scroll saved from the Holocaust, leaning into Jewish community and Jewish learning, celebrating the Jewish holidays and Shabbat together, continuing to invest in all the Jewish things you do. These are declarations not just of survival, but of a life, of a community that is thriving. Shana Tova u'Metuka. May we thrive together in 5785. I'd like to invite up Al Corey, the president of the Board of Trustees, for a few words. Kids, you made it just in time.